Hi, and welcome to my FlossTube channel. I'm Jane Farish, and I am so glad that we get to spend this time together. Those of you who have been with me for a while can immediately see that I'm in a different place. If you've been with me on some of my Zoom gatherings, you may say, oh, that's Jean's kitchen, and it is. This is the far end of the room where we have this wonderful harvest table that is where we eat most of our meals and play family games, and where occasionally I do some of my work. And I'm set up here today because I have a rather big project that was going to take up more room than I really had downstairs, where I could get good camera angles, etc. So that's why we are here. The project we're going to work on today is remounting Jane Hattersley. Now, I've been talking about doing this for probably a year. And finally, I just made up my mind, it's time to get this done. And one of the reasons I have to say is that kind of have this looming deadline. And I hate to say this about myself, but I do tend to work better to deadlines. So coming up next month in February, I've got 2 shop visits. I'm going to be at Fire Poppies in Summerville, South Carolina, on February 7th, 8th, and 9th. Then I'm going to be down at the Cross-Stitch Cupboard in Fort Lauderdale on the 11th and 12th. Sorry, I had to mentally count off that in between those I have a travel day. So at Fire Poppies, I'm going to be teaching 2 classes, but we'll also have a trunk show. And that's why I wanted to get Jane reframed so I could bring her with me. Now, of course, this is one that's already been published. We did it as a stitch along. If you're interested in stitching it now, it's never too late. You can actually start your own little stitch along with other people that you know, or join the JFN SAL, just Jane Farish Needlework Stitch Along Facebook group. There's always somebody there who's also stitching Jane. Or you can buy a print copy at one of the participating shops. So PDF in my Etsy store, printed copy in one of the participating shops, which of course will include Fire Poppies and Cross-Stitch Cupboard. So that's why I thought I need to get this done so I can get it back under glass and with proper spacing, etc., and have it ready for those 2 shop visits. So that's what this is all about today. So let's take a closer look at why I am remounting this. Now, this has been very well done. It was, I can't say for 100% certainty that it was done by somebody who does restoration professionally, but they certainly did know what they're doing. So this is sewn to, we've got a piece of Bristol board or mat board here that's been covered with fabric. Until we uncover it, we really won't know what it is. But when you look really, really closely down here in the corner, see these little white specks? Those are stitches where it has been stitched to this, I want to say it's probably muslin backing on this board. So that's how this was done. Oh, and let me show you the back. So on the back, you can see how neatly it is stitched. Let me back up here a little bit. I hope the lighting is good enough to see this. It's simply overlapped here and stitched along here, and then the sides folded in and stitched down. So very, very well done, very tightly done. But what I don't like about this is the linen is so open that when the background, when this cotton shows through, it actually almost creates like a moire. It lightens the background. So I can really demonstrate what I'm talking about up here at the corner, because this is already loose here. Whoops, I'm not in the right place. Okay, you can see that it's loose right here. This is the fabric that I'm going to be using. And when I slide this underneath here, I think you can see the difference between how it's going to look. Let me see if I'm in the right place here. You can see how much deeper or more saturated the color is when it's mounted on a dark fabric. Now, I was worried that the grays may not show as well, and I don't know. I've fingers crossed that that's still going to look good. So that's why I'm redoing it. When I took it to the frame shop to pick out an appropriate molding, we also noticed that down here at the bottom, it's sort of curved. And so a good bit of this white was showing no matter how carefully it was framed. And so the mounting board that I purchased is actually an inch larger on all four sides than this mounting board. So some of the background fabric, or underlining, let's call it, is going to show, and very deliberately, because I wanted the edging of this to show, where Jane has done a cross stitch right up to the edge of the fabric, or has stitched it and then cut the linen away. So I'm going to have to be really careful. As we well know, linen is so easy to fray, and so I'm going to have to be really, really careful with that. I'm also aware that this isn't going to take, it's not going to be hard. It's just going to be tedious, time-consuming, and I'm going to have to be really, really careful that when I clip these stitches that are attaching it to this original mounting, that I don't damage the sampler. So that's what's going to be going on today. So let's get started. The first thing, of course, is going to be clipping these mounting stitches, for lack of a better word. And I have debated about whether I want to use a seam ripper or scissors. I generally don't use seam rippers with my needlework. I know a lot of people do when they're taking stitches out. I find them to be too dangerous. There's too much of a chance that you're gonna clip the wrong thing. But I noticed that there's a knot right here, so I'm gonna just clip that knot and see if that is gonna make it easier to just take these stitches out. Are you holding your breath? I'm holding my breath. That's not working too well. So let me see if... How many times have you heard me say that if you make sure that you can see both parts of your scissors, you won't cut the wrong thing? And I'm not really sure. Nope. The thread split, so I didn't get all of it. This is going to be more nerve-wracking than I ever imagined. I should have some music to go with this, some sort of, the kind of music they play when you know the monster's coming down the stairs and there's nothing you can do about it. Aha. All right, that's the first one undone. I remarked to the framer when I was talking to her yesterday that it's not there's not very many places where it's stitched down, and I am going to be really glad that that's true. All right, so that's one down. I wonder how many it's going to be. I'm not planning on counting them all, and I'm not going to necessarily make you watch me through every bit of this, but I just wanted you to see what the process was. Now I'm sure that all I have under my seam ripper is just that one stitch, so I am confident that I can split that. And actually, it's just pulling it loose, it's not cutting it. And I'm also thinking I probably would have been wise to have grabbed a pair of tweezers as well. There's another stitch down here. Okay. Now see what I'm talking about? Here's that's part of the linen, and that's already come unraveled. So I am really going to have to be careful with this. And it's actually making me rethink whether I want to do this at all. I'm going to carry on a little bit more before I decide for sure. Let's see what's happening on the rest of this corner. All right, it looks like that maybe by working underneath of this, let me see if I can get this angle right so you can see what I'm doing. By pulling it out from underneath, that might be safer. Okay, so this corner is free, yay! Now this is also, I hadn't thought about this, but this is also, wow, this is when we can see, oh, you can't see that, I'm sorry. We're going to be able to see the true colors that are not faded, because this is a big difference here. I'm going to have to get more undone before you'll really be able to see what I'm talking about. So the first corner is free, so now I'm going to work here on the side, and I see another knot. So it does look like maybe, I thought it was going to be one continuous thread, and it's not, so that's actually a good thing. So let me cut this one off. And again, I think I figured out that working from underneath might be the more prudent way to go about this. Oops, that's going to be really loud every time I set a tool down on this table. This is why on real video production teams, you've got a sound person and a lighting person and a producer and a director, and here, all you have is me. Okay, so, okay, now underneath here, and you can't see this, you just got to trust me. I've caught the stitch with the seam ripper and I'm pulling it out. All right, so the side is now also free. All right. So here across the top, the stitches are like every ½ inch, it seems. So I've had to kind of adjust how I'm going about this, which is to loosen it by lifting it and then clipping the stitch underneath, which makes me nervous because I can't see it as well as I would like to. I'm also clipping each stitch so that I'm not dragging the thread through the sampler. It doesn't help that it was sewn on with a double thread, but I am glad that it was stitched with white. It certainly makes it a lot easier for me to see where the stitches are. So I'm going to count my blessings where I find them. Now this one, just as soon as I said that, this stitch is real. There's a stitch right there that's really hidden. So I'm going to skip that, I think, and go on to the next one and then come back to it. I'm only about 1/4 of the way across the top, and so it's a whole lot. As much as I knew it was going to be tedious, this is 10 times more tedious than I ever thought it would be. Okay, so that much is undone. Let me see if I can give you a peek at how different the colors are. Not the red so much, but the grays are really much deeper, and the pink is deeper. Ooh, if memory serves, I'm halfway done. I'm in the middle. I still have some of the white to go back and pick out maybe with a pair of tweezers. Okay, that one came up very easily. That was nice. Okay, the top is unattached. So that is, I'm sure, going to be the most challenging part because there was so much of it. It was stitched like every half inch. When I get it loose, I'm taking my scissors and slipping it underneath and clipping it from beneath. Okay, now I think it's going to be a little bit easier because it's only connected a few places here on the center side. Glad I decided to do this upstairs. The sunlight coming in here from the side is really helping me a great deal. Plus, it's just so much more pleasant to work on a sunny day. I don't know if this is going to show or not. I don't know, just see if, I think it will. Can you see how dirty this is? Again, this linen is so loosely woven that over time you can see where the dirt has penetrated. It's very light here along the edge where it was hidden by the frame. I find that kind of interesting. Okay, here's another little knot here, so I'm going to just try to cut that off before I go any further. I'm changing my camera angle here for these last few stitches to see if I can do a better job of showing you what I'm doing here. Without my hand getting in the way. She's free. All right, let's see if I can show you how different the colors are. Like the lightest gray was where Jane stitched her name down here at the bottom. So hopefully you can see the difference. I realize there you go, that's probably a little bit better. Where you can see that difference. And then the pink, well, and also the chocolate brown. Well, now that what I'm seeing it as a chocolate brown, let's come up here where here are the two birds. This one, the back and the front. So you can and you can also see the difference in the color of the linen a little bit as well. Let's see, and also, oh, the greens. Look at this between the back and the front here, as well as the pinks. So one of the things I'm thinking about doing, which is going to make this whole thing take longer and be a little bit delay in taking the next step, is I'm thinking that I should stop and match these colors to DMC and Cosmo colors now, where I can see the back. I already have two colorways for Jane, what I have considered to be the close match, and then one that I thought was just a little bit brighter. And now I think there's going to be a third one, which we might just name original, what we see on the back, something, I don't know, we'll see. So let me get a pair of tweezers and get these little bits of white threads taken off and decide what I'm going to do about matching colors. I'll be back. I've made a mess. And as I said at the outset, this is where my family eats dinner, and it's Friday evening and time for me to clear off this table. So this is going to be a wrap at this point, but let me show you where I am with the colors at this time. I know they're going to need some tweaking, especially the pink, but what I'm coming up with as being the closest colors to what I'm seeing on the back of the sampler. Now this particular one is discontinued, but there's a color, the next color, 574, is almost the same, but I've used it somewhere else. As I said, I'm not good about putting a skein back after using some of it. So I'm going to tweak this a little bit, but this just gives you an idea of one of the color ways of that's in the current publication. Whoops. So, and of course there's not much left on these because this one's been stitched, but this just gives you an idea of how different the colors are with what I chose from looking at the front. So anyway, this has been fun. It was scary detaching Jane from the current mounting. No disasters, so far so good. I'm going to get it mounted just as quickly as I can because that's going to be the safest place for it, to remount it and to get it back to the framer. I kind of picked out a couple of moldings that I really liked, but I wanted to wait until I completely remounted it before I made any kind of a final decision. So that's where we are tonight, and I hope that wherever you are, that you are stitching happy and staying safe, and I'll see you next week.